Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. So just over a year ago, I made a video counting down the top 10 coasters in the world according to the community ranking website Captain Coaster. One thing about that list though was that all 10 of the coasters were steel coasters. So I wondered what the top wooden coasters would look like, and that's what this video is. So today we're counting down the top 15 because why not add an extra 5, I have time, wooden coasters in the world according to Captain Coaster. I have a few rules of what I'm counting as a wooden coaster. RMC topper track coasters are fine, but lightning rod doesn't count since that's mostly, if not all, steel at this point, but the other ones are allowed. And besides that, when it comes to like steel retracts like GCI Titan track, generally as long as most of the coaster is wooden, it's fine. I'll be a bit more specific in some edge case entries, but let's start the list with number 15. Beginning this list off, we have Boulder Dash at Lake Compounce. Boulder Dash is a Custom Coasters International, better known as CCI, wooden coaster that goes throughout the woods and was built in the year 2000. On paper, Boulder Dash is just a regular out and back style wooden coaster, much like many classic wooden coasters. But due to the coaster's very fast pace, many of the airtime hills have a lot of, airtime. Another common point of praise for this ride is its use of the terrain. The ride never strays too far from the ground, and its location, being located, directly in the woods, allows for a good night ride and a greater sense of speed. The main criticism laid against this ride is its general roughness. However, in the past few years, it's been getting some GCI Titan track. It's mostly just been used for the first drop and some of the last few airtime hills, what were reportedly some of the rougher parts of the ride. And it's been known to increase the pace of the ride even more and, of course, smooth those parts out. The coaster is still primarily made out of wood and does have a few rough patches, but it's still an overall great ride. This coaster is ranked 109th in the world and finishes 15th on this list. At 14 on this list is Colossus or Colossus Kampf der Giganten at Heidi Park in Germany. This is the first and lowest rated of the 4 Intamin prefabricated wooden coasters on this list. If you don't know what that means, neither do I, just know it's a wooden coaster made by Intamin. This coaster, built in 2001, is most well known for its first drop and first few airtime hills, delivering some great ejector. If you're familiar with El Toro, the first half of this ride is very similar to the first half of that ride, except from what I've heard, a little bit tamer. This coaster is also one of the smoothest wooden coasters out there, having just been fully retracked in 2019, after having been closed for 3 years due to structural issues. From what I've heard, after the 2019 retrack, it became a whole lot smoother, but also the pace was decreased slightly, especially anything after the Helix. Supposedly after the Helix, the ride just becomes sort of mediocre, although not actively bad, and it does have this pretty sick giant looking guy holding old pieces of track. And that's about it for this ride, but we'll be seeing a lot just like it later. This coaster finishes 108th in the world and 14th on this list. Okay, speaking of Intamin prefabricated wooden coasters, we have Balder at number 13. Balder is yet another Intamin prefab, and it was opened in 2003 at Liseberg. This coaster is praised for much of the same reasons as Colossus was, but this ride's a lot more compact and a bit smaller overall, but from what I've heard has a better pace with stronger airtime. The ride, also similar to Colossus, is quite smooth and an overall fun ride experience. The biggest complaints against this ride are just simply its relatively short length and its admittedly very repetitive layout. To show you, now I present Balder at 10 times speed. But still, despite this coaster consisting of just banked turns and airtime hills, there's strong enough elements, with the airtime hills being very strong, to carry the entire ride to one of the best wooden coasters out there, making this ride come in at number 84 on the world ranking and 13 on the wooden coaster ranking. At 12, we have Python and Bamboo Forest, or the Viper, at Nanchang Wanda Park, or Nanchang Sunak Land, or Nanchang Sunak Paradise. Not the easiest coaster to find information on due to its location in China. But there are enough reviews on this for this ride to qualify, and I mean, just looking by the POV and from what I've read, it's a great looking ride. Python and Bamboo Forest is a coaster made by Great Coasters International, also known as GCI. And from some poorly translated reviews I read of this ride, the main highlights seem to be the fast pace kept throughout the ride, and its extremely long ride length, having over 5,000 feet of track. This ride also packs in some very good forces, both positive and negative, with some very good laterals and, of course, airtime. Also, none of that really matters, besides the fact that this ride has one of the coolest entrances I've seen out of any coaster ever. Like, I mean, come on, name a better entrance than this. Like, you can't. Yeah, that's about it for this ride, coming in at number 79 in the world and 12 on this list. From 1922 to 1938, there was a wooden coaster located in a small park in Erie, Pennsylvania. The ride looks pretty cool. It went through a ravine, as you can see in this picture, and it was called Ravine Flyer. But its closure in 1938 really poses the question, if this Ravine Flyer ride was so good, why isn't there a Ravine Flyer 2? Well, I'll be. Number 11 on this list is Ravine Flyer 2. Anyways, Ravine Flyer 2 is a gravity group coaster opened in 2008 at Waldameer. The best factors of Ravine Flyer 2 are, say it with me, its pace and use of the train along with its airtime. Why didn't you say it with me? Come on. In seriousness though, those aspects are what this ride is most known for. It of course goes downwards in some parts into a ravine and then across a busy highway with some great ejector airtime hills. The ride is also a fair length, decently smooth, although it does have some rough transitions, and is very similar to another ride we'll be talking about later on this list. Hint, it's The Voyage. This ride's very similar to The Voyage. The only real complaints I've seen are a few rough spots, and at the end the pace does slow down a little bit. But besides that, this ride flies through its course and delivers a great ride experience, making it to 76 on the world ranking and 11 on this wooden coaster ranking. Wait, but if Ravine Flyer 2 is so good, why isn't there a... Oh my god. We have now entered the top 10 with the ride I have actually been on, Ghost Rider at Knott's Berry Farm. Ghost Rider was a coaster originally built in 1998 by CCI, but then it received a massive refurbishment by GCI between the 2015 and 16 seasons. Right off the bat, that retrack made this ride significantly smoother and to an extent faster, specifically after the mid-course brake run, or lack thereof. This ride's main strengths are, once again, airtime. I think that's a constant among all good wooden coasters, and of course, its very long ride duration. The track length is over 4,500 feet, and it almost constantly has airtime hills or some form of laterals throughout the entire duration. The best part of this ride now, arguably, is actually the drop after where the mid-course brake run used to be, giving exceptional amounts of airtime, specifically in the back row. But from any row, this ride provides an exceptional ride experience. From my own personal experience, I remember this ride just being a long, intense experience throughout, while also being absurdly smooth since the retrack happened only a few years prior. Still, to this day, the ride still runs at a very fast pace and very smoothly. The only real complaint I've seen brought up about this ride frequently is its awful capacity. But again, that just comes as a result of the very long ride experience and the removal of the mid-course, both things that make this ride what it is. So really, this ride doesn't have any large flaws at all. And that's enough to put it at 72 in the world and 10 on this list. At number 9 is Goliath at Six Flags, Great America. And this is the first of the 3 RMC Topper Track wooden coasters. If you're not aware, a lot of RMC's older from the ground up coasters ended up actually being wooden coasters that were just designed to be a lot like their steel coasters. Goliath overall is still considered one of the low-tier RMC coasters, but as everybody knows, a low-tier RMC is not a low-tier coaster. This ride is most known for its airtime-packed 85-degree drop, its massive airtime hill, and of course the famous zero-G stall. The problem with this coaster is that I just named like half the elements on the ride. This ride is extremely short, coming in at only just under 45 seconds of actual ride time. It also has gained a slight rattle, but when the great elements of this ride are that great, and I mean, it's an RMC, so of course they are, the ride is bound to be one of the best out there. And that allows it to have the 61st spot in the world and the 9th spot on this list. At number 8, we have Mystic Timbers at Kings Island. Mystic Timbers is another wooden coaster by our friends at Great Coasters International and was opened in 2017. The ride is packed with fast-paced airtime hills throughout. I think I'm sensing a pattern here. And despite its very simple out and back layout through the roads, the ride packs quite a lot of interesting airtime hills, but I mean, it is just airtime hills over and over again. The ride has also stayed quite smooth over the years, unlike another 2017 GCI I can think of. But that's besides the point. Mystic Timbers runs great in every sense of the word. Also, Mystic Timbers is pretty well known for some of the interesting airtime elements on this ride, like, what is this? What does that mean? But of course, the best part of the ride is the shed. Yeah, I mean, it's a non-negligible amount of theming. That's more than everything else on this list, so you know what? Good job, Kings Island. Maybe next time just don't market your entire ride around a dark ride portion. Like, come on. This ride comes in at number 60 on the world list and number 8 on this list. Coming in at number 7 on this list is Mountain Flyer. Oh, sorry, no, that's the prototype name. The final name is called Wood Coaster at Night Valley in China. It was finished in 2011, and like Python and Bamboo Forest, I don't know a ton about this ride. It's the only coaster located at Night Valley, a park most known for the tragic Space Journey incident, but that's a story for another day. But I'm guessing this is some sort of Fun Spot America Atlanta type situation where they got a really big coaster to try to boost attendance. But man, is this ride good from what I've read. It's another very terrain-based coaster being built on a mountain. It has more GCI staples such as a really fast pace, very good laterals, and of course, airtime. I've heard from the few reviews that are actually in English that the ride has gotten a bit rough over the years, but it's still fairly smooth. The ride also has not one but 2 station interactions. Also, finally, this coaster may have the best theming on Earth. I mean, like, it's called Wood Coaster, and do you see how much wood there is? Like, this is crazy. They put so much effort into theming this ride to wood. In all seriousness though, this is a top tier wooden coaster that would 100% be getting a ton more attention if, the location wasn't somewhere 99% of enthusiasts haven't been. This ride comes in at 7th place and 54th in the world. Coming in at number 6, we have Phoenix at Knoebels. This year's the second occurrence of small parks in Pennsylvania, with wooden coasters being the best one, along with Ravine Flyer 2 from earlier. Being built originally in 1947 and then later transported to Knoebels in 1985, this is a very basic PTC out and back coaster. This ride is, of course, renowned for its very generous restraints in the buzz bars and crazy amount of airtime. If you're not aware, the only restraints on this ride are a bar that's about a foot above your lap, so anytime the coaster goes through any sort of airtime hill, it's some strong floater ejector type sustained airtime. The ride also runs fairly smooth, especially considering its age. And the only real bad thing I've heard about this coaster is that it's a bit repetitive, especially compared to the other top tier wooden coasters, but not surprising due to its age. And for me personally, this ride was a blast, although I do like Ghost Rider and Mystic Timbers more, but that's not the point of this list. This ride finishes 6th on this list and is number 48 in the world. At number 5, we have a coaster I subtly alluded to earlier on the list, the Voyage at Holiday World. This is a wooden coaster made by the Gravity Group and opened in 2006. The Voyage is renowned for its extremely long length through the woods, and its great airtime and laterals, of course. The airtime is less focused on being super strong, like on something like Ravine Flyer 2, but instead it's more sustained. Don't quote me on this, but I believe that this coaster had the most airtime in the world based on duration until Steel Vengeance came around. This coaster also has a lot more variety than a lot of the other ones on this list, with long, twisting bank turns and also tunnels. Those aren't super relevant, but I think tunnels are pretty cool. Its location in the woods also allows for a great night ride. And while this ranking probably doesn't take this into account too much, I'm not sure, when it's running trimless on events like Hollywood Night, this thing hauls in the second half. And during those events, it has some of the most intense airtime out there, but still, even during normal operation, the airtime in the second half is a lot stronger. The ride has also become rough to an extent, but Holiday World does a great job maintaining it, constantly retracking parts that are becoming more uncomfortable. And yeah, this ride has pretty much everything you could want in a wooden coaster, and it comes in at 39 in the world and 5 on this list. Also, due to this ride's sheer length, this POV still has a lot of time left, so I should probably talk about something while it's going on. How's your day going? You having a good day? Make sure to comment below if you're having a good day. Okay, that's the break one. Okay, good. Coming up next on this list is our second RMC coaster, and that's Outlaw Run at Silver Dollar City. Outlaw Run is one of RMC's older endeavors, being built in 2013, and has a fairly standard RMC layout, but fairly standard, still top tier. The ride has very strong airtime throughout, and is most known for the double heartline roll that provides hang time and intensity at the very end of the ride. Its duration is a bit short, but it's notably longer than Goliath, and it still runs fairly smooth with only a little bit of a shake that really doesn't affect the ride experience too much. This was really the ride that puts both Silver Dollar City and honestly RMC on the map, being their second ever coaster, and stands the test of time. This ride is 34 in the world and 4 on this list. Coming in at number 3 on this list is another and the best RMC topper track coaster, Wildfire at Kolmarden. This ride was opened at Kolmarden in 2016 as its first major roller coaster, because Kolmarden is a zoo. But you know, why don't all zoos have massive RMC topper track terrain-based coasters at the back of them? They're really missing out. Its main highlights are similar to many other RMCs, like the stall that was just playing, and an outer banked airtime hill, a wave turn-like thing, the shed. Oh, that shed was a lot less exciting. It also has a beautiful setting. It's located in a very wooded area right next to a lake, and it also, as I said earlier, uses the rocky terrain to its advantage. It's also a much longer length than the other 2 RMC topper track rides on this list. And when it comes to its rattle, it's about the same situation as the Outlaw Run. There's a little bit of it, but it's pretty ignorable. Overall, a great ride, and from what I've read, a great zoo. You know, now that I think of it, this park's kind of like Marineland if Marineland wasn't awful. This ride comes in at number 3 on this list and number 22 in the world ranking. Hey, it's my personal favorite wooden coaster, El Toro at Six Flags Great Adventure. This is the next of the Intamin prefabricated wooden roller coasters after Balder and Colossus. This ride has quite possibly some of the strongest airtime on Earth, especially in the back row with that first drop and the first 2 ejector hills. It's kind of like a stronger version of what was on Colossus, which was already really strong. But unlike Colossus, this ride actually has quite a few great elements after that. There's some decent airtime hills after the turnaround, but then you get into the Rolling Thunder Hill. This hill is very smartly named after the fact that it goes over Rolling Thunder. This hill comes out of nowhere and is maybe the strongest ejector on Earth by just pure G-forces. It's either that or the hill on Skyrush. There's no definitive answer. But then even after this onslaught of airtime, the ride isn't done. It then goes through a series of sharply banked turns like the ones on the Voyage, but even faster. On top of this, the ride is also glass smooth or the roughest coaster you've ever been on, just flip a coin. But even when the ride is running rougher, it's still an elite coaster, except for these 2 incidents, but that's besides the point. This ride comes in at 21 in the world and number 2 on this list. So, El Toro is great, but it has its flaws, as does any ride. But what if there was a ride that improved in almost every aspect of it? A ride that's taller, longer, has a more varied layout. A ride that's seen change to make it smoother, and a ride that keeps all the great aspects El Toro had. But such a ride couldn't exist, right? Oh crap, that's footage of Mighty Canadian Mindbuster. Well, 1 second. Where's the POV? Oh, there it is. T-Express at Everland comes in at number 1 on this list. Like I indicated, this ride's quite similar to El Toro, being the 4th of the Intamin prefabricated wooden coasters, and it was the final of the 4 to be constructed, being built in 2008. This ride takes all the best aspects from all of the previous prefabricated wooden coasters and puts them together, like the great drop and first airtime hill of El Toro and some of the turns of Balder, along with the smoothness of Colossus and Balder. There is a bit of an asterisk there with the first drop to the mid-course brake run, which does occur pretty early in the ride, being made of RMC-made steel track, but it's nothing really different than Titan track, so it counts. This ride is airtime packed with great positive Gs and an extremely long ride experience, like significantly more than any of the other wooden coasters on this list besides the Voyage. The biggest problem with this ride is, well, the fact that it's located in South Korea, a country that's not particularly known for amusement park rides and that just not many people know about it. I'm sure this ride would be talked about a lot more for how great it is if it was in the US or even Europe. But still, that really isn't too relevant to the coaster, and just the layout and the ride experience on this ride is so great that it comes in at number 1. But oddly, only 18th in the world, meaning the top 17 coasters according to this list are all steel, which seems interesting. Hey, thanks for watching to the end of the video, or skipping to number 1, or whatever, it doesn't matter to me. This was a fun video to research and record, and also all resources are down in the description below. And, oh no, the ending's coming,